we're back here with Adrian and we're going to start our Q&A session. I'm going to start with a few questions that I'm going to personally ask him myself, and then I'm going to let you guys take the floor. So I hope you've got your thinking caps on and you have a lot of things that you want to ask him. But just to start, you mentioned earlier on that you started your own business when you were younger, but now you're working at Google. So what is the main thing that made you go from that entrepreneurial type of career path and now the corporate world?
I mean, in my current job, actually, it's quite entrepreneurial anyway. So we bought a startup, a company called Odometry, about 18 months ago, and that was the business that I was leading for EMEA. So I literally had the opportunity to do a startup business, but in the safety of Google. And one of the jobs I did in enterprise, literally, that was another startup. So I joined the team, we had about 60 people. 2 years later, that team was 200 people. So in 2 years, through hiring, there was no acquisitions, nothing. Organically, we'd grown from 60 to 200 people, and the revenues went even higher than that. And that was another sort of startup. So I feel as though in working at Google, I've got that balance of entrepreneurial, but in the context of a degree of safety as part of that organization.
Okay.
And I had to pay that loan off as well, right?
So retrospectively, now that you're here, is there anything that you would have changed or done differently to get where you are now, or?
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of reflecting on my life, and I don't think I would. I mean, I've had some really low moments, and I've told you about some of those, and I've had some really high moments, and you know what? I don't think the ride's been a bumpy one, up and down, but I really enjoyed it, and I can't pinpoint something I would really change, apart from that idiot who marked my 2-1. my first down to 2-1, I changed him. I'm sure it was a him. That's right. That would change.
Okay, we're going to open the questions up to the floor now.
With your projects of creating more job opportunities, is it a particular experience in your life or secondary experience? Or because you said you had low moments, but is there one particular one that made you say that when I get to my position, I would want to do something for those people who are in that similar position?
The story of Mo is one of those moments where you just think, I felt like I had a responsibility to do something differently, but I've always had this ambition to give back, but it wasn't until Sandra Kerr from Race for Opportunity came in to my office and said, Adrian, we'd like you to be the next chair of Race for Opportunity. And I said, well, I'm sure you're talking to lots of other people who are much more qualified than me to do this. And she said, actually, yes, but we still still want to talk to you. Didn't quite say that, but she said, look, the reason that we want you to be the chair is because we've heard about the work that you're doing in Google. I didn't tell you that I'm the exec sponsor for our Top Black Talent program, because we've got a job in Google to do as well in terms of getting more diversity, and particularly black diversity into Google. And so that's one of the programs that I sponsor. And she'd heard about the work that I was doing, and therefore she came to me and said, we'd like you to take on this wider national role as part of business in the community. And so that's why I did that. But I don't know, I guess it's, my father's death kind of also was one of those trigger moments where you just think you need to do something quite differently. And I had, 5 young brothers and sisters that, needed support and help. So maybe that was another trigger moment.
Hi, I'm Monica. I just wanted to ask you to talk a little bit about your non-executive role on the board at the Home Office. I'm assuming that the Home Office's policy remit is it covers kind of human rights and privacy laws. Does that present a conflict of interest, given that you're from Google and Google is increasingly encroaching on privacy?
So I mean that's a really more a question about Google and the relationship with the Home Office, and I prefer to talk more about my story and the things that I'm passionate about in that are unique to me. But I will say that my appointment to the Home Office is a public one, and the areas in which I will get involved are very clearly delineated. And so I'm very cautious to ensure that the things that the Home Office are most interested in me for are my experience in terms of diversity, for example. And that's an area I feel passionately about, and that's an area where I hope I can make a degree of difference. So, when I was first approached, there was somebody in the Cabinet Office said, we'd like you to think about this. I couldn't think, initially what the connection was. And I spoke to a few people and said, actually, you know what, Adrian, this connects really well to your diversity work, because the Home Office is probably the, next to the Department for Employment, is probably, the government department that has the most impact on the lives of diverse candidates and black people, right? And BAME people. Think about Stop and Search. And, Theresa May published some stats. She did a lot of great research with citizens. You're 7 times more likely to be stopped and searched if you're black than if you're white, for example. So these are the areas that I feel passionately about. These are the areas where I hope, by engaging with the right people in the Home Office, and perhaps the wider remit of policing and so on, that I'll begin to have some impact that is a benefit to the society at large, and the people that I particularly feel need to be better represented. Thank you for your question, Monica.
Hi, I just want to ask a question. You mentioned that you went through some high and low moments, i.e. The stingy marker or the 2-1 rather than the first class. I wanted to know what actually encouraged you to continue to persevere and push on in those low moments. What helped you to continue to strive towards your goals?
I like I said, I had this modest ambition to be a millionaire when I was 16, right? So I kind of had that as a beacon for me to drive towards, and at those moments, I felt quite deflated actually on that one, because it felt like I'd got this thing that I worked so hard for, and then it was taken away, right? That just somehow didn't feel right. But the person who told me was doing the right thing. He was genuinely trying to be supportive and helpful, and that's the result that I got, right? And so you move on. The next phase was, onto the business school, and I just immersed myself into that. Or I just got, even tougher on the judo mat on those occasions, and that was it, right? I got it out. That there is a sense of, joking about that, but there's also a sense of seriousness about that in terms of the sport that I do, whether it's, cycling from London to Paris in 24 hours, doing 305 kilometers, again for charity. These are the kind of things that, help me to get over some of the low moments. Giving something back that really takes a lot out of me is one way of doing it.
My name is TJ.
Hi, TJ.
I work for a tech startup called Bidvine, and I know a lot of people from ethnic backgrounds who are looking to get into the tech industry, and it was interesting that you spoke about it. But then when I speak to people a lot, they normally say, the first thing I get told is, do you code? So what hope do people from a non-technical background have of getting into the tech industry?
Lots. Thank you for that question. I don't come from an engineering background. I don't code, right? But I work for Google, and just to give you a bit of context, about 40% of Google, roughly 40% employees are engineers, people who can code. About 40% are people who come from backgrounds like mine, more business focused, more commercial focused. And then we have 20%, so on the sales side, and then about 20% who are support groups, if you like, legal, HR, PR, and so on. So there's 60% of the roles, roughly, that we recruit for in Google have nothing to do with coding. So there's lots of opportunity in Google, in Facebook, in Twitter, in Microsoft, in Apple, in a host of other tech companies that don't require you to be able to write code. A lot. The harder challenge, I think, is to get more, black and BAME people into coding, and particularly women, You know, you know, the tech industry could probably hire all of the you know, the everybody who's done coding and stuff for the next 10 years easily, right? So I would strongly encourage. I mean, people tell me from some of the diversity work that I do that you know, in some parts of the black community, they get told, right, you got three choices. You can be an accountant, you can be a lawyer, and you can be a doctor, and that's it, right? Those are your choices. Well, you know, I just think there's that you know, there's a degree of I understand that, by the way, you know, and I respect it. I don't in any sense want to do any injustice to that thought, but I also think that parents, you know, need to think through and be made aware of the many other options, and STEM subjects in particular, you know, is a hugely rewarding, exciting, and honourable industry to be in, I think.
Hi, my name is Amope. So I know you said you started up your own business at the age of 18, right?
Yes.
I'm in the process of starting something similar. I'm wondering, how did you acquire the knowledge that you need? For example, by that time you hadn't gone to business school, had you?
Yeah.
So in terms of the legal stuff, in terms of all the knowledge that you need to have in order to run your own business, how did you manage to acquire that knowledge?
I didn't.
Okay.
I was like, right. So you know, I was a teller in a bank, right, like a cashier. So I'm like, you know, seeing, oh gosh, look how much money this guy makes or this girl makes, right? Thinking, oh, okay. How are they doing that, right? I want some of that. So you know, I thought, right, this is it, right? My kind of research into the market was bizarre. It was like almost non-existent. It was like, okay, I knew a few people who've been into the transport industry and seemed to be doing okay. That was my research into them. So I would. I mean, it was hugely naive, completely mad thing to have done with no contracts, and I was literally knocking on doors trying to get business and drumming it up. But it was a great experience for me, and I learned a lot from it. But you know, I would just advise people. A gentleman came to me earlier and asking me about his business and the fundamental questions of, you know, what's the addressable market? How fast is it growing? What are the competitors? What is your relevance? What is your point of differentiation? And then do, you know, all of the kind of technical stuff around accounting and legal pieces. But if anybody who's thinking about starting up business, those would be the fundamental questions to ask. You know, where to compete, so which market, where's the growth, where's the profitability, and then how to compete. And a big part of the how is really around differentiation and delivery. But I was like, none of it. Yeah, I just jumped in, give it a try.
Hi, my name's Constance, and
Constance.
I wanted to ask about your experience of having a mentor. Firstly, how did you go about choosing your mentor? And secondly, what value did that experience have on your career?
Yes, thank you for asking that. I do a lot of mentoring myself. I continue to. Part of the Top Black Talent program at Google is, you know, part of the contract is that we give those people that are on the program 8 one-hour sessions of mentoring with somebody from the business. And so I mentored quite a lot of people. I had one gentleman, Jed. I mean, all of the people I mentored have been incredible. You know, but this one in particular, he was doing his doctorate at Oxford, and I'm thinking, what? So how am I going to help this guy, right? He's like he's a PhD from Oxford. What am I going to do, right? And then, so we kind of start the conversation. Okay, where's your goal? What's your vision? How are you going to get there? What have you thought? And then you figure out how you're going to help this person. And you know, I think I did, but he also helped me. How did I pick? I picked a mentor in Google because I just thought she was an amazing woman, and I kind of really connected with her. So I would say, you know, make sure there's a connection, a personal connection. And I did it in a light way. I said, look, you know, just want to meet for lunch maybe once a month, just have a chat. And she said, yep, fantastic. And she really helped guide me through, you know, the madness of Google to kind of figure out some of the stuff that was going on, and to give me advice about my career and who to connect with. And she made connections for me. So that's the sort of person, you know, person you get along with that you admire and respect in terms of their business capability, but also in terms of, you know, that connectedness to you And I think it's a really powerful thing. I mean, people say, mentoring's kind of dead. What you really need is a sponsor. I actually think that both of those can work really, really well.
Hi, I'm Deborah. In your experience, what would you say is the most important qualities to progress your career, that have either progressed your career to a senior level? Because it's not just technical ability, is it?
No, I mean, technical is table stakes. You've got to have the competency, you've got, to have the raw smarts and all that sort of stuff. But for me, it's, it's about determination, it's about resilience, it's about collaboration. One of the biggest things that I learned, probably too late in my life, or hadn't always sort of remembered, is about collaboration, is about working with people to deliver results, and that for me is a much more powerful way to achieve than probably anything else. And in a Google context, unless you can collaborate, then you really you do not achieve in the same way. And when I look at people who really achieved in Google, have gone on to really high levels, then that is one of the big things. Yes, they're bright, they do their jobs well, they work hard, but everybody kind of does that, right? It's the relationships, it's how you engage, how you interact, how you pull people along. I remember hearing a story many years ago about, this was in consultancy, a very intelligent, emotionally intelligent and intellectually intelligent man said to me, look, he said, Adrian, imagine you're sort of leading this charge to get to the top of this hill where there's this fort that's been held by, some other team. And you get to the top and you grab the fort, but when you turn around there's nobody left behind you, or there are very few people left behind you. You're not going to be able to hang on to that position. And that image has always stayed in my head of how do you take the whole team, and up the hill so that you're all there together and you can hang on to that success or that prize that you've striven for. So I think those are some of the things that I would say. I also think being nice, right? I wish I was nicer sometimes. Just being kind to people. It's just an incredibly powerful thing, being nice.
My name is Lauren. I'm
Lauren.
Professionally interested in big data. And before
Professional what, sorry?
I'm professionally interested in big data.
Oh, okay. Oh,
And
no.
before you said, and before you said at Ford you worked in the analytics department, which
Yeah.
I guess is very data driven.
Yes.
And then you said in Google, big data is the next big thing.
I think it's the sexiest part to be working
The
in.
sexiest part.
Yeah, that's
so
it.
what really made you change your mind moving from Ford, where you didn't really sound very passionate about it?
Yeah.
And now you say it's sexy.
I passionate is probably not the word I describe to analytics, to sales planning and analysis back in the day. This for me is a lot more around, because it was like crunching numbers, right? It was like, how many cars did we sell? Where did we sell them? How many wheels? And that's easy to calculate, right? It's just 4 times the number of cars. Do we need to call for in production and all that? It was that sort of stuff, right? The things that we're doing now, that I'm working on now, is really understanding the consumer journey. The path to purchase, or the path to some conversion type that's important to a client. And for me, that's a much, much more exciting thing, to understand how people are moving around the web or across offline channels like TV or print, and what impact that has in driving them to buying that car, or to buying that toothpaste, or whatever it is. So it's a more, I guess, kind of human engagement around understanding, and being able to potentially transform the world of marketing by driving more insight into consumer behavior. That's the thing that really excites me. And by the way, all of the big consultants, so McKinsey, Kearney, BCG, they all have formed really strong analytics departments. All of the media agencies are doing the same. Salesforce just announced that they've got an analytics team. So everybody wants to kind of be in the analytics space right now. So it's not just me. So we need to be pretty good to succeed. I think we will. Hope we will.
Thank you so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and watch the rest of our talks below.